I'm Laurence Mitchell, and it is almost 6 years since my video, The Day I Learned I Had Aspergers Syndrome, was published on YouTube. And it's actually 14 years since I was diagnosed in 2002. Now, it might look in that video that I'm very composed. Some people say, Laurence, you don't have Asperger's. You just can't have, because I make eye contact, just like I'm doing now, looking into the camera. But actually, this is not so. It's been proven recently that a lot of autistic children have a lot of eye contact. So that is one myth blown. Anyway, I'm more here to tell you of something very exciting that I learned very recently that can really benefit you. And if you follow me, you will find out that what I'm going to tell you will reduce all the anxieties of anyone you know and care about, of course, including yourself. Now, let me tell you something. About 4 years ago, I was in a dreadful relationship, and it caused immense anxieties. I was very distraught, I was very unhappy, and I was very unlonely. I just didn't know what to do. And a little while after I got out, I came down with acute kidney failure, perhaps brought on by the stresses that I underwent in the 6-month relationship with a woman I thought I loved. One of the things I've had to accept, actually loving a person is much more challenging than just saying I love you or I'm in love with you. It is learning about one's feelings, one's emotions, one's sensations. And I learned all about this about 2 years ago when I began seeing a cognitive behavioural therapist who gave me an explanation as to what is the differences between people like me who have Asperger's and neurotypical. And basically our sensations, our wiring, the way we think, emotions, pain, love, feelings, is all amplified, exaggerated. And I suddenly came to the conclusion that many of my anxieties were far more exaggerated or intrusive or amplified than the everyday person or neurotypical. So what was I to do about it? Very, very interestingly, I'm single, and I've been looking out for that wonderful person who's elusive in my life. Rather, she's not in my life. And so I had to find out a little bit about myself. I met a most wonderful woman. We went on a date and we began seeing each other. She was an amazing person. It's with regret that the relationship, in fact, it wasn't really a relationship, it was a friendship. It just didn't work out. But it actually helped me with one of my autistic or Asperger labels, and that is OCD. Because on one particular day, I'd actually text her 13 times, and she was very concerned. Because I did this, it showed that I was a needful person. Now, very, very interesting, during our very first date, she said to me she wanted to know everything she could about autism, how autism affected my life. And for much of the time that we were talking, I tried to give her an in-depth interview about how autism affected my life. Of course, this text was, which I wasn't aware, what it enabled me to understand for the very, very first time, because I've been on plenty of dates, but I've never been on a date where a woman has actually said to me, Laurence, I want to know how autism affects you. And because she actually unfortunately ended the dates, not because so much because of that text, but she herself had just had a knee operation which went wrong. She was in a lot of pain. She needed crutches to walk around, and she felt she wasn't in a position to actually date. Anyway, so earlier this year, as I mentioned, I was continuing my CBT therapy, and this therapist really enabled me to understand how to control a lot of my anxieties. But I was interested to find out why these anxieties are there in the first place. Of course, you can say, of course, it must be obvious, you must know. Actually, it isn't so obvious. Anyway, so at the beginning of this year, I was in China for one of my children's weddings, and got seriously ill with a condition which mimicked emphysema, or emphysema. Anyway, basically shortness of breath. When I came back, decided I'll go put myself on a 12-day diet fast, water fast. In fact, I succeeded in flying colours. And it made me think, Laurence, if you can put yourself on a 12-day water fast, of course, perhaps OCD has a little bit to do with it, why don't you try intermittent fasting, which I do at least 1 day a week. This week, for instance, I've actually done it 2 days a week. Anyway, now, why am I telling you all this? What am I leading up to? Well, I just discovered what I think is the most lethal substance that you can find anywhere in the world today. More lethal than cigarettes, more lethal than cocaine or any other drug. And that is sugar. Just before Christmas, about a month before, I decided to take added sugar out of my life. Of course, when I was a child, I grew up on a lot of added sugar, all the major makers, Kellogg's. I adored my All Bran, I adored my Weetabix, and plenty of cereals which were loaded with sugar. And of course, I adored cakes and biscuits and sweets galore, and this all carried through into my adult years, and I was truly addicted. I didn't know how to stop the addiction. Now, I believe my addiction to sugar was responsible for all of my anxieties. And just before Christmas, I actually started seeing a nutritionist who has recommended I take out yeast out of my diet, and recommended that I eat colostrum and collagen. And I've also, with discussions with her, gone on to a bone broth diet, which I'm doing at present. What I'm finding already is that my memory, my cognitive abilities have improved quite a lot. For some reason, one of my favourite singers, and digressing a little bit, but it's relevant, is Phil Collins. And whenever I used to hear his voice on the radio, I could never remember who it was. Of course, I recognise his songs, but I couldn't, for some reason, remember Phil Collins. I also have a condition in my right foot, which is plantar fasciitis. And again, this was a word, it didn't matter how many times I would get myself to repeat, I couldn't repeat. So this is just two examples of how now I remember Phil Collins, now I remember plantar fasciitis. And it's all, I think it's all down to now sugar is not the number one substance in my life. In fact, I'm making sugar the last substance that's going to be in my diet. At the moment, it's all about sugar in added food. But this also means I'm not eating any cakes, biscuits, chocolates, sweets of any types. And the only time I might take in sugar is when I'm exercising hard, when I need the sugar that is naturally available in carbohydrates like bananas. So what I'm saying to you is, my advice to you, if you want to improve the relationship of either yourself or anyone you know or care about, you must try to help them remove as much sugar as they can from their diet. Now, what I'm prepared to do over the next few weeks, few months, because I'm going to be continuing with this as my lifestyle, I will let you know my progress. So all I encourage you to do is to comment on this video and follow me. Bye for now, and a great and healthy sugar-free 2017 to you.